2 a.m. and she calls me 'cause I'm still awake. Can you help me unravel my latest mistake? Dropped a stitch about 17 rows behind me. There's no way I can pick it up from where I am. This is so frustrating. I feel I should just slam it down on the table and walk away madly. 'Cause my stitches don't count up and I missed a cable. This yarn's not the size that it says on the label. Now I can't find which repeat.
Hello and welcome to the Knittin and Knittin podcast.
And here's your host, Dianna. I am so happy that you're joining us today. Today is Saturday, July 6th, 2013, and I am broadcasting from rainy Southwest Ohio. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and thanks for stopping by. Thank you very much. I want to say to my returning viewers, first of all, thank you for your faithfulness and your patience with me. Through this past year, the podcast has not been always consistent, and you've seen me grow some as a podcaster, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate your continued support. And coming back, I would like to say welcome to the first-time viewers. Thank you so much for taking time to sit and knit and talk with me. I have a lot to talk about, and I am taking suggestions from the Podiversary thread where I ask for suggestions, and so I don't want to make a lot of apologies. I do want to say I don't have show notes. The podcast is a little late. I try to record around the 1st and the 15th, and it's a few days late because I had some trouble with my laptop, which is what I record on, and so I needed to order a part and wait for that part to get in. And it's here, and the laptop is going. So here we go. Let's get started. First of all, I would like to say where you can find me. My name is Dianna, and you can find me as His Handmade on Ravelry, His Handmade on Flirt, His Handmade 1 on Twitter. I am also His Handmade on Instagram, and I really like Instagram. That's right now it's my social media of choice. I love seeing pictures. I'm a visual person. There's not a lot of conversation there, which I don't mind at all. So that's where I am mostly. You can find the blog, at sittinandknittinpodcast.blogspot.com. I'm not sure how many of you are viewing this. Most of you may be viewing through Downcast or iTunes, which is how I view most of my podcasts, through Downcast. I do have a YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel is His Handmade, and the link to that channel is on my blog, and I will try to get it in the Ravelry group, and also I will try to get it on my Ravelry profile page. I would like to briefly address the blip issues. I do upload my podcast after I record it on my laptop and Journey edits. I upload it to Blip, and Blip usually will send it to iTunes. And then I will copy the link and post it on to my blog. And so what you see on the blog is actually fed through Blip. Well, Blip is starting to cut out small shows that are not really generating a lot of revenue, which means a lot of the video podcasts may get cut. And I know of a couple that have gotten cut. One of my favorites is in her podcast, is one that has gotten cut. So I am trying to think of how I will proceed. Right now, YouTube is allowing me to upload the videos on YouTube. So I downloaded all of my back episodes from Blip, and I uploaded them onto my YouTube channel. So all the back episodes 0 through 19 are on YouTube right now. And I will continue to upload through Blip until Blip tells me to stop, but I wanted to have the episode somewhere else. Now, if it's free to continue to do it on YouTube, I will continue to do it on YouTube. I don't spend a lot of money podcasting. I know some people say they pay a small fee for Blip, but I don't pay anything to Blip. I upload my episodes absolutely free. I don't pay anything to podcast. The only thing that comes out of my pocket is if I'm mailing something off for a prize or when I give away patterns. That's the only thing I pay for. I really don't want to ask for donations. This is just a hobby for me. It's not a business or anything like that. It's not a passionate hobby like knitting, but it is something that I like. I like the community of it, and so that's why I podcast. So if there's not a way for me, long story short, if there's not a way for me to do it for free, I may not be podcasting anymore, and that might be sooner or later. I'm not sure. It might be far down the line, but we'll have to wait and see. So right now, you can still, because I'm thinking if Blip cuts me off, then the episodes that are on the blog won't be able to be viewed anymore since they're fed through Blip. So I may have to go in and put the YouTube feed on there. So that's where I am for that. Um, it's been a couple weeks, and so I need to get going. I think first of all, we will start with our giveaways. We had 2 giveaways going. Oh, another thing, excuse me. The Sittin' and Knittin' podcast group is, you can find it on Ravelry. Thank you everyone who has joined. I think we've had about almost 30 new members in the past couple weeks. I think we were at around 146, hovering around there, and now we may be in the 170s for membership on the group. I appreciate that very much. We have a lovely, friendly community, and just join the group. I will post different updates there, or there may be different conversations. Like when I knew the podcast was going to be late, I posted that in the group, and so the group is a good way to connect with me more, and connect with others who watch and other knitters. So thank you for joining the group. Thank you for those who have introduced yourselves. I've loved reading the introductions and getting to know you all through that. I learned so much, it seems like, from every person I read. Each one of you has so much to offer. If you cannot find the group, please message me or email me. You can email me at knittingmother@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on the blog, or you can message me, His Handmade, on Ravelry. I've had a few messages where people have not been able to find the group. In the group's title, it's titled Sittin' and Knittin' with no G on it. So it's with no G on the sittin' or the knittin'. It's titled Sittin' and Knittin' Podcast. And so that's how you can find it. I did edit it because before I had an apostrophe where the missing G was. And maybe if you type that into the search engine and you didn't know that, then it wouldn't come up. So if you type in Sittin' and Knittin' Podcast, and I believe it's all one word, you should find the podcast group. And if you're unable to, please feel free to message me on Ravelry. Another sort of administrative thing I wanted to share is, well, I'll get to that later. We'll go ahead and do the giveaways. So we had 2 giveaways going. The first giveaway was for, and I forgot to bring the fiber down. I had 2 pieces of fiber that had been gifted to me about a year and a half ago when I had expressed interest in learning to spin. It just does not seem to have taken for me, spinning. And so I wanted to share this. And so I opened up a thread, and we had 15 entries. So I actually this time used a random number generator. I usually don't use a random number generator, but our group is growing, so I may be using that more often. and I used the random number generator, and I put in the numbers 2 through 16 because I was the first one. Justice is in the other room, but she can corroborate. I had Justice hit generate, and the number that was pulled for the fiber share was number 10, and she is USK 68. So congratulations, USK 68. Please contact me on Ravelry with your mailing information, and I will mail that fiber to you. She said she's just learning to knit this summer, so I hope this fiber will be a help to you, and I would love it if you would share in the group what you do with the fiber, how your spinning is going. That would be great. Our next giveaway that we had is our Podiversary giveaway. It's been 1 year since I have been podcasting. It was around the first or second week of June of 2012. And so we had several entries in there. I pulled all the names from the Podiversary giveaway thread, also from episode 18, Happy Podiversary thread, and from comments on the blog. Justice? And so I have all the names in here. We're drawing for 3 prizes. The first prize will be for a project bag, handmade by me. I hope that's pretty special. When you contact me, I would like for you to tell me your favorite colors, prints, patterns, anything, and I will enjoy very much making you a project bag. So the lovely Justice will draw. Let me see. Hot ass knitter, Nicole, who is the hostess of, I don't know if you can see that. Yes, you can see that. Who is the hostess of the Positively Knitting podcast. And she is a very sweet, dear friend of mine. So Nicole, you entered drawings, I think, for almost a year in my podcast group, and you've never won before, even though we have a small group. So congratulations. I think I know your favorite colors, but contact me and let me know what you're thinking of and what you would like, and I would love to make you a project bag. So congratulations to her. And our next one, did you put that? Our next one is for a Ravelry pattern download of any amount, please not an ebook, but a Ravelry pattern of your choice. And that one is Aunt T. She is very sweet, and Aunt T, excuse my messy handwriting, Aunt T was the winner of that. So contact me with your pattern of choice and I will get that to you. So congratulations. And we have one more. And I want to say about giving away patterns, I personally love to queue patterns and I love to purchase patterns even if I don't knit them right away. And I am a horrible person with going to the post office and mailing things off. That's why I don't mail out a lot of gifts, yarn, books, and things like that, just because I find it hard to fit in my schedule. We live in a small town. The post office is only open a limited amount of time, and so it's easier for me to give away something that I can give away online. I'm thinking about starting to maybe give away something a little more exciting, like gift certificates to maybe Etsy or a favorite yarn store. But Etsy gift certificates sounds like something that I will be starting to do just to mix it up a little bit. So we'll look into that more. And if you have any ideas or thoughts on that, just let me know. Our next winner is, I don't know how to pronounce her Ravelry name. IMECOLL. So congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone who entered. Thank you for your lovely comments, for your lovely congratulations, for your positive feedback. Just thank you so much for being a part of this community. So let's get on to the knitting. It's been 14 minutes and I haven't gotten on to the knitting. We will talk about, I don't have anything out of my hands. It's been a couple of weeks and I don't think I've finished anything new since we last spoke. It's been a pretty busy couple of weeks for me. I I did not knit every day. I knit almost every day, but there has been about 3 days. Just the past couple of days, I had not knit a stitch. Like on July 5th, and I'll talk about that later in another segment. I didn't knit at all, and so anyway, I will show you what I have been knitting. So what's in my hands? I am knitting the calligraphy cardigan, and this is by a pattern by Hannah Fettig. And I will go ahead and give the specs for anybody who's new. I've been knitting, I cast this on in May, so a lot of you all have seen it before. I don't have the front cover picture of it. It's a cardigan by Hannah Fettig, and it's knit out of DK weight yarn. I am using one of my favorite yarns, new to me yarns. It is from Daisy Knits, and her Etsy shop is daisyknits.etsy.com, DAIZIE knits.etsy.com. And I am using her Nectar base, which is 85% pull worth and 15% silk. I believe that's correct. And it's in the Thinking of Mel colorway, which is a gray colorway. And the last time I talked to you all, which was 2 weeks ago, I was here. And I don't know if you remember, I had it on. So I went ahead and I finished knitting the body, and then I did the 4 inches of ribbing at the bottom. What I wanted to say about this was the pattern does not call for you to go down a needle size, but I did go ahead and go down a needle size on the ribbing. I'm knitting this on US 3s. I got gauge on US 3s, which seems kind of small, but that's what I got the gauge on. So I'm knitting this on US 3, so I went down to a 2.75 millimeter needle instead of the 3. I think US 3 is 3.25 millimeter, and I had 2.75. So I went down and did the ribbing on that, and I went ahead and picked up for the armhole. So I got one armhole done. Now what I did with, one sleeve done. What I did with the sleeves is I went up a needle size because I knit tighter in the round than I do flat. So I went up to a US 4 and I knit the sleeves on US 4. The pattern calls for you to do the sleeve decreases every 10 rounds. I did the decreases every 20 rounds because my arm is a little fuller up at the top. My plan had been to do the decreases every 20 rounds, and then when I got to below my elbow, then to do it every 10 rounds as the pattern called for. But when I tried it on, it still seemed a little tight. I know some of that will come out in blocking, but I usually wear long sleeve. I mostly wear long sleeve shirts or blouses or dresses. And so I wanted to have the room. I didn't want a real baggy sleeve. So I did my sleeve decreases every 20 rounds all the way down. I did do it every 20 rounds to below the elbow. And then I started doing it every 10 rounds. And when I got to about right here, I tried it on and it was too tight. So I ripped back, maybe 30 rounds, I think. I ripped back about 30 rounds and I redid it again. So I got down to the length that I wanted, and I believe this is 17. I have long arms. It's 17.5 inches. And then there is 4 inches of 2x2 ribbing we're supposed to do. So I put it on my 2.75 millimeter needles. These are old needles, some of the first needles I ever got about 9 years ago, and they're Addi Turbos, 40, I believe they're 40 inch. and I really like these needles. They're not, to me, they're not true twos. They're the only 2.75 millimeters that I have. Most twos I work with are 2.5. So anyway, I'm down there, and what I did is I went ahead and picked up for the next sleeve, and I know that this whole sleeve is 120 rounds. So I am on round 53, so I'm almost halfway through with this one, this side of the sleeve, and I picked it up on my US 4s. Another thing I wanted to say about this sweater, um, it just slipped my mind what I was going to say. US 4s, I can't remember. I did go ahead and when I have extra time or something, I always weave in my ends. So I did go ahead and weave in my ends. I think it came out pretty, my underarm armholes, I'm pretty happy with how those came out. You know, I might have to tighten them up a little bit after it's done, but, oh, I know what I want. The reason why I went ahead and picked up for the other sleeve is because I was running out of yarn. If you recall, those of you who have watched before, I had two skeins of yarn, of Daisy Knits yarn. And so what I did was to wind them into balls, and my ball winder was not big enough to hold a whole ball. So I had two balls of each skein, and instead of alternating every 2 rows, they came from the same dye lot, but I'm sure there's a little difference. There is. I decided to just do one ball from one skein, one from the other, one from the other, and one from the other. So the first ball that I used was for the collar and maybe to right here to just up into the sleeve decreases. And then when I switch to the second ball, you can see there is a marked difference. There's more white in the second ball of the second skein. See, this one is more solid. This is more solid gray. And this one down here, when you get down here, it looks like there's more of the natural color in there. So when it got time to add in the third ball, I decided, it was for the sleeves, I decided to go ahead and use the same thing instead of alternating, and I hope I'm making sense. So I used that skein for the sleeve, and I didn't know if I would have enough for both sleeves. So I went ahead, after I finished this sleeve, I want to pick up and hopefully finish the other 67 rounds that I have, which I don't think that what I have left is going to go 67 rounds. But this is what I have left of this third ball. I'm going to do as much as I can to make the sleeves match, because that's one thing I said that I really didn't want to make a lot of garments out of hand dye because I'm too lazy to alternate every 2 rounds. My knitting is such that I just need to pick it up and be able to throw it down and travel easy. But I really, Daisy Knits is one of my favorite shops to shop at now. And I met her, and she's a wonderful person, which makes shopping from her even more better. So this is what I have, and I didn't bring over the last ball that I have. Then will be for the cuffs and for picking up around the button bands and doing the button bands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit as much as I can of the sleeves, and then I will probably pick up for the button bands before I finish the cuffs, just so I can make sure I have enough. I should have enough to finish. It looks kind of small to me, especially since I've gained, I think, a few pounds since I started this. But we'll see how it goes. So I think that was all I wanted to share with you about that work in progress. And that is my calligraphy cardigan by Hannah Fettig. My next work in progress that I have been working a lot on are my Hermione's Everyday Socks. And this is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I believe I do not have the pattern with me. I believe the designer is Erica Luder, And she has a really, really nice blog. I really like her blog. She takes fantastic pictures. So if you go find her, find the sock pattern, click on her, go to her blog. She has a very beautiful blog. Um, so my Hermione socks. I think the last time I saw you, I had the foot done. I mean the leg done, I'm sorry. And I was getting ready to start the heel. I went back and forth. I didn't know if I wanted to do an afterthought heel or a heel flap or my old faithful heel, which is the Fleagle heel. And so what I did, I set these down for a long time because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So what I did is decide to go ahead and do a heel flap. So I did a slip stitch heel. A partridge slip stitch heel. I have not done one of these. When I first started knitting about 9 years ago, I tried socks, baby socks, class socks out of books and things like that. So I have done this before where you knit one, slip one, knit one, slip one, and then you slip one and purl back. But I haven't done that for myself. When I started knitting socks for myself, I found the Fleagle heel. I've only knit a few pair of socks. So anyway, I did that. And then I was by myself at work and I started to turn the heel and I did something wrong. I would like experienced sock knitters to tell me. I still think my little triangle for the turn heel looks small. When you turn your heel, and what I did was I knit to the halfway, I slipped one, knit to the halfway point, and I think I maybe knit one, slip one, pass the slip stitch over. And I know you usually maybe slip, slip, knit, or knit two together, and then on the other side you slip, slip, purl, or purl two together. But I had saw on a website when I was researching the knit one, slip one, pass the slip stitch over, and I really like, how it came out. But my point is, when I got finished turning the heel, I did not have the 32 stitches I started with. I had like 28. Yes, like 20. I was missing 4 stitches. I don't know where they went to, but so I hope it's going to fit right. I did put it on and it seems to fit pretty good right now. And I went ahead and picked up the gusset. I had to rip this out and do it a couple of times because I messed up the first time. But I want to try new heels. I do want to try the afterthought heel and see what I like better. If I like the Fleagle heel, this heel, or the afterthought. Once I picked up heels and started decreasing for the gusset, I think I've just now, right here is all of the gusset decreases are done. And maybe I have 10 or so rounds after the gusset decreases. It seemed like when I was doing the gusset decreases, I was knitting for hours and hours on this sock and was not getting anywhere. It seemed like I was knitting, decreasing every other row, and I was not getting back to where I was supposed to be. I wanted to tell you what directions I ended up using for this heel. And I can't remember which pattern I ended up using. So this is Lorna's Laces Multi. And I can't remember the name of the colorway. I don't know if it has one. But as you can see, I love this Hermione's Everyday Sock pattern. I just really, really like it. So right here, I decided to do a stockinette stitch foot just because I know I had asked Chrissy the Great. She's Chrissy the Great on Ravelry, and she's knit a couple pair of these. I'm sorry about my camera messing up. And I asked her about the textured pattern in the shoe, if it made it tight or fit, and she said it didn't for her. But I just decided to go ahead. I needed a mindless sock knit, so I decided to go ahead and just make a stockinette stitch foot. I do not like how the yarn is pooling in stockinette stitch. For this variegated yarn, the Hermione's Everyday pattern is an excellent pattern to kind of break up the variegation, show the beauty of the colors, and really handles the yarn. right here on just plain round and round knitting, I don't like the pooling. I'm not a fan of pooling, and so I really don't like how that turned out. I don't dislike it enough to rip back and do the pattern for the top of the foot, but that's just what I found for this particular yarn. So that's where I am on this. I will be decreasing on this and finishing the foot and starting the second one. And I really wish, because I went through, I know what I did. I went on YouTube, and I will put the link in the show notes. I watched YouTube videos on how to do pick up for the gusset and to turn the heel. Knit Pearl Hunter, or yes, I think that is it. She's very popular, has a lot of videos, and I used her directions. Knit Pearl Hunter, I believe that's what it is, on how to do my gusset heel. And I mean, I know there's no holes, and so it came out fine. It was fine. It just seemed like I was knitting a long time, and wasn't making any headway. But it seems like I do that too when I'm doing my fleagle heel, because you're supposed to long row up or increase every other row on your heel stitches until you get to the your total number of stitches, and then you start decreasing back down again, and that's basically what the fleagle heel is. Well, you decrease down by, doing a heel turn. It's a lot of knitting too. So, maybe heels are just a lot of knitting. I don't know. I will try the afterthought heel. It kind of scared me a little bit picking up those stitches, thinking of doing that. But after, picking up the stitches for the gusset was no problem. So I'm enjoying this. I did knit on it. I knit on it in public. I'll try to post some pictures of different places in public that I knit on it, but this is mostly, it stays in my purse, and this is mostly what I knit on. So, I needed to cast on something else. I think I titled this next project that I cast on "In the Mood" or something like that, because I felt like I was knitting on the sleeves of the cardigan, and I was not getting anywhere. Rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds, and I was not gaining any inches. And the same thing with the socks. So I really wanted something that showed a little progress. So I decided to cast on a new project. I am knitting Lentilla, and it is a pattern by Martina Bim. I have knit one of her other patterns, The Hitchhiker, which I really like. It's a Ravelry download. I think it's like $4.86 US for the pattern. And it's a ruffly scarf, or a ruffly shawl. I'll wear it as a scarf. And I really, really liked, I was just in the mood for a ruffly scarf, and I didn't want to do that fun yarn that Journey likes to knit with. So I was just in the mood for that. So that's what I decided to do. And I am using my Fat Squirrel Fibers yarn. I picked this up at the Knitting Pipeline Retreat, and it is in her pecan base. It's a fingering weight, 100% superwash BFL, Fat Girls Fibers. And the colorway is called Morning Dove, and it's more of a plum color. It's not that color that you see does not look like it at all. It's more of a plum color is what I can say. So this is how far I've gotten so far, which is not very far. I think this is one ruffle, and this is the second ruffle, so I'll start the third one. One thing about this pattern is you're supposed to knit the ruffles until you have 25% of your yarn left, and then you start doing the decreases or the bind off or whatever. That, I didn't realize that until after I bought it. I mean, I think I had read a lot on it before I purchased the pattern. I don't really like the fact that I have to weigh my yarn and keep weighing my yarn and keep weighing my yarn. What I had planned to do was to weigh my yarn and to wind off 25% of it and cut it and then just knit that and have the second ball. But I wanted to start. I wanted to cast on right now. I didn't have time to stand on my chair, go to the top shelf in my kitchen cabinet, get down my scale, put the batteries in it because I don't use my scale very much. I always take the batteries out, the 9-volt batteries, so that they don't corrode or anything. All of that seemed so much trouble. It was 11 o'clock at night, and I had to cast on. So I just cast it on. So I'm just going to eyeball it. If this is a 100-gram skein, and when it looks like it's getting pretty low, then I'll weigh it and see, and I'll have to get my scale out, leave it on the table, and keep weighing it to see when I have 25 grams left, and then do the decrease. That's my only complaint, and that's just, again, sometimes it could be laziness or it could just be convenience, and that's kind of inconvenient for me now. I am enjoying it. It's a lot of short rows in it, and so it's something that kind of holds my attention, and I'm enjoying the yarn. It is beautifully dyed. It's slightly splitty, but I'm sure it's the kind of, I'm not sure what ply it is, but this kind of base I recognize from other hand dyers, and it kind of fluffs up and becomes soft and strong and beautiful once it's finished and washed. But it is slightly splitty to work with, and so I love that yarn still. So another project that I have cast on, and yes, I do have my other 2 sweaters cast on that I have not touched at all, and I hope to get to those really, really soon. Another project that I have cast on, or I didn't cast on this one yet. We'll talk about that one. Is I am casting on a hat for Halos of Hope, and a little bit more about Halos of Hope. Well, I can talk about it now. When I first started knitting about 9 years ago, I used to do a lot of charity knitting, and mostly all charity knitting. As I got busier, I started knitting less. I started focusing most of my knitting on gifts for people around me or my family. And just recently I've had a burden to knit for charity more, but I didn't really know what charity I wanted to knit for. Usually I would knit for children's charities. But as I was exploring different charities, I even have a Ravelry group where I was knitting, that I started for my local hospital, where we were knitting preemie caps and booties and things for the local hospital. And I haven't even been active on that lately, in a couple of years since Araya passed away. So I wanted to knit for a charity, but I did. It's hard to explain, but I've changed some since Araya passed away, and there's still some things that are hard for me to be involved with. And I always thought, well, I will probably really be actively involved with the Epilepsy Foundation, because Araya died from complications to seizures, and if there was more, if we had caught her extreme seizure, if we had gotten a good handle on it sooner, she may have had a surgery that could have prevented her death without going into a lot of detail. So she had extreme seizures. I mean, she would have over 100 a month. She was on different medications and things like that. So anyway, I thought I would do something with the Epilepsy Foundation or something for children. I have a real tenderness for special needs children, but every time I think about doing something like that, I feel like I still spend 2.5 years, just can't handle it yet right now. So as I was praying and saying, what charity should I get involved with, Halos of Hope just kept coming up. I just kept hearing it from everywhere. And I thought, I don't know anyone that has been directly affected with cancer. My father was diagnosed. He did have a malignant, he did have a malignant, I was talking about the malignant tumor removed from him 6 years ago, but he didn't have to have any chemo and radiation, and that was a horrible scare for us. But other than that, I don't know of anybody that's gone through chemo or radiation. So this is a more of a charity that I can kind of be on the outside looking in and not really have to. There's a weight of pain that I would bear when I was like knitting for. When I first started knitting for charities and I was knitting for preemie babies, I know what it's like to have preemie babies. When I was knitting for homeless, just having. So it's hard for me to say. I have a burden for those who are going through chemo, but at the same time, I have not experienced it. No, I was never homeless, but I did know people who were homeless personally. And so, anyway, this is something I felt like my heart could handle. Long story short. So, I started looking more into Halos of Hope and what they were doing and different things like that. And I guess I can insert here, even though we're still talking about works in progress, I will be volunteering in the Halos for Hope booth at Stitches Midwest on August 9th, which happens to be my birthday. And that will be in the Illinois area. And so I will be at Stitches. If anyone that is watching is going to Stitches, please PM me or put it in a group and let me know. I would love to meet up with you. I think I will be able to participate in the podcaster meetup because I won't be in the Halos of Hope booth until later in the afternoon. So that's that. So I decided I just found out about Stitches a couple weeks ago since I last podcasted. I wanted to start knitting hats for Halos of Hope. So I was looking for an interesting hat pattern. I didn't want to have just a stockinette stitch hat, but something interesting and something that didn't have a brim, but something that someone could wear not just as a winter accessory, but if they needed to cover their head because they didn't have any hair. I found Christian's hat, and I believe this is a free pattern. It is I downloaded it off the website, but you can go to it on Ravelry. I don't think it's a Ravelry download. And that is a picture of the hat. It has like a broken rib type of pattern. The first two rounds, and I think this is a free pattern. The first two rounds are purl, and then the next two rounds are purl 2, knit 3. So it's pretty mindless, but it makes a very beautiful pattern. So I am using for this hat, I learned from Megan, the wise Megan of Stockinette Zombies. I hadn't heard this before. Really, I did not believe it until I actually did it. But you can double fingering weight yarn and make worsted weight yarn. So I went and looked in my stash. I wanted some nice washable yarn. And I had some Madeline Tosh hand-dyed sock yarn in the ginger colorway. And it's 395 yards. And that's really not enough to give me a nice length of socks. I mean, they would give me short socks, but so I decided to use this Madeline Tosh sock. Here's the card. Hand-dyed yarn. And it's a beautiful orangey yarn. I got it last winter. Kind of gold. And this is what I have gotten so far. I have just done the ribbing, which I think was a knit 1 purl 1 ribbing. So I did the 6 rounds of knit 1 purl 1 ribbing, and I'm starting on the pattern. The color is more orangey and vibrant and way prettier than what it's showing up on the camera. I'm not sure. I am using US 6 needles, 16-inch circulars. And I forgot how much I really love knitting in a round on 16-inch circulars. I hardly knit in a round anymore on 16-inch circulars. So I really forgot how much I loved it. So that is this. One thing I want to say that happened to me when I first started, I cast it on and I had got the first couple rounds of knitting and I was so excited, just loving it, loving the feel of this yarn. I have it in two separate balls. Maybe, no, it's still showing up. It's not, that looks washed out, but it's really bright orange. Not bright orange, but a deep, beautiful fall orange. So, so I was knitting it. I was loving the way that this weight feels. I was loving the squishiness of it. I was loving the feel of the Madeline Tosh. I was loving, I'm using Knit Picks needles. I was loving how I was knitting it around, everything. I was just loving it. I was knitting it on break at work and just loving it. And I came out from break and I was doing a row and I looked, I think it was the second row, and I had twisted the stitches. When they say cast on a certain amount of stitches and be careful not to twist and join, well, there's like 90 or 100 and something stitches on here. So they're all bunched up. So when I started knitting it around, I had actually twisted it. And I thought, oh, is there any way I can fix it? Is there any way I can fix it? Is there any way I can cut it and fix it? And there was not. So I had to rip it out and redo it again. Now that I'm looking, I am thinking that, what are these? US size 6. I'm going to have to get my needle sizer. I think these are size 4s. What I have it on is size 4, and this fell out of my bag, and this is the US 6, and these are Addy Turbos. I need to switch to the US 6. I always like to do my ribbing 1 or 2 sizes below, and so I'm only a couple of rounds into the pattern. So what I need to do, I did the ribbing on 4s, and I need to switch to 6. So I'm glad that I was talking to you about this, because I would have went on knitting and probably not pulled everything out. Those needles wouldn't have fallen out and I wouldn't have remembered. So that is Christian's hat, and I have it as Halo hat number 1 on. And I hope to be knitting a lot more hats. And what I'm thinking is, after I finish the socks, the hat knitting will probably take over for my more portable knitting for now. So that's that. I have one more work in progress. My mom commissioned me to knit a sweater for a co-worker who had a baby in June, but I don't have to have the sweater done until August. So I want to do the Gramps cardigan. It is patterned by Kate Oakes, who is Tot Toppers on Ravelry. It is a cabled shawl collared baby pattern that I think is completely adorable. And I'm planning on, I think this is Cascade 220, and all I have is I have it cast on. I'm thinking that the needles that I have it on, which they look really big, I think they're US 8s. This is supposed to be knit in a light worsted or a DK weight yarn. The needles are too big. I didn't swatch. I never swatch for baby sweaters. I just don't. So I have it cast on, and I think what I wanted to do was go down to a size 7 needle, and there is a couple of inches of ribbing. I can't talk a lot about it because it's a paid for pattern. So what I wanted to do was to go down a couple of inches for the ribbing. The yarn is not as bright as it's showing up there. It's more of a deep blue. I'm assuming this is Cascade 220. I have 3 balls of it in my stash. I cannot find the tag, but I think I remember that's what it is. So Cascade 220 is not what I would call a light worsted. I want the baby to wear it this winter, so I figure, make the smaller size. I'm using, a little bit thicker yarn, bigger needles. It'll probably come out. I'm knitting the 6-month size. way my gauge and all that is, it'll probably come out to be, now that I'm thinking of it, maybe I should do the size 12 months because he'll be 6 months in December and that's when he'll really wear the sweater. So I might have to cast on a few more. I don't know. But that is something that I need to be working on. I'm really, all of my knit obsession is going into the calligraphy sleeves right now. Maybe once I get those sleeves conquered, then I told my mom I would have this ready by August when her friend came back from maternity leave. So that's that. What else do I have to talk to you about? In my goodie bag. In my goodie bag, I think I told you I ordered some more Daisy Knits yarn and I ordered some more for DK Nectar Base because I really love DK is one of my favorite weights of yarn. DK, and so the same base that I'm using for the calligraphy, but this is in the blue sky colorway. Again, you're not really getting the true color. Not really getting the true color of it. What I was planning on doing with this is knitting the Anina kimono by Jules Lunder on Ravelry. It calls for about, I have 2 balls of this, which is 960 yards. Thank you, Daisy, for winding these big balls. She sent it to me wound like this. She knew I didn't have a giant ball winder, and she sent me these 2 big balls, and I appreciate it so very much. She's very, very sweet. I was going to use it for the Anina kimono, but as I was reading some pattern notes, it seems like I may need to go up a size on that pattern, and so I don't have enough yarn here. So what I'm thinking about doing is using this yarn for the Gramps cardigan, and then I'll have some left, and what I want to use with the rest is my friend Paula Emmons Feasley, who is Prairie Piper, the hostess of the Knitting Pipeline podcast, has a new shawl out called Lullaby Rain, and it is more lace knitting than I have ever done, but I think it is just a beautiful shawl. And it calls for 543 yards of a sport weight yarn. Yes, 543 yards of a sport weight yarn. This top toppers, I think it calls for 400. So I think I can get the sweater and the shawl out of these 960 yards. I think that's what my plan is. And so I will have to I can either do that and then just I will have to twist my arm and order some more DK weight yarn. I really, my next on my list is the Anina kimono by Jules Lunder. I really want to knit that, and I would like to knit this shawl by Paula sometime in the fall. So that's what I have up and coming. I have a correction that I need to make. Last episode when I talked in my goodie bag about the notebook, and I don't have the notebook here, but it was a notebook with pictures of everyone from the Knitting Pipeline retreat, and I think I said, here it is, had been looking for it, that Valerie, who is Knit Fantasy on Ravelry, had sent me the notebook, but it actually was not Valerie. Her name is Sue Wilkins, and she's Sue Wilkins on Ravelry, and she is a professional photographer, and she is the one that did the notebook. So I wanted to make that correction and give credit where credit is due. I got a message from Chessie on Ravelry and also a message from Valerie correcting me, and I appreciate that very much. So that this notebook was created by Sue Wilkins on Ravelry. So I wanted to make that correction. What I have been reading. Someone said they wanted to hear more about what I've been reading. I don't get to read a lot because I spend most of my time knitting, and I just have not mastered the art of holding a book and knitting. I do have my Kindle now. I just haven't taken the time. I mean, I do have my iPad and I have Kindle app, and I could, I just have not been reading. I used to love to read. You used to could not catch me without a book. But I haven't been reading lately. Knitting is all I do when I have spare time. And listening to audiobooks. And I had mentioned a couple episodes ago that I started listening to a new audio podcast called the Fiber Hooligan hosted by Benjamin Levisay, who is the CEO of XRX Books and Knitters Magazine. And he seems like a really nice person. And he had for his first guest, Debbie Macumber, the Blossom Street series. I think I read these years ago, but yes, like 7 or 8 years ago. So I was listening to her, and she was very delightful, and just listening to her talking about, Blossom Street, the books, and her life, and different things like that. I thought, oh, I should read that again. So I just think I finished the third one. What I want to say about it is, I used to read when I was younger, and I don't want to insult anybody, but I used to read a lot of chick lit, and that's not anything that I really want to read anymore. And I think this is mostly kind of lightweight girlfriend type of literature. I don't know. It's kind of real fluffy. It's a fluffy read. It's not really, but I'm the type of person that once I get into a book or I get into a series, I just have to finish it. So anything is, even though it's not anything really deep or profound, and it has some romance in it, and I'm not into romance anymore. I still, it has a knitting background foundation in it. So I've been still listening, once you get to one book, then you want to see what's going to happen with the characters in the next and the next. So I'm on book 4. So, that's what I've been listening to back and forth from school. I got another audiobook called Knitting, and I left them out in the car, and it's by Leela Narji, and I hope to post that in the show notes. And I haven't started it yet because it seems like every time I've been in a vehicle, somebody's been in there with me talking. But it is different knitting essays, and I like things like that. I do have a paper book that I am reading. It's called No Idle Hands: the social history of American knitting. And it is by Anne McDonald. I read this when I started knitting 8 or 9 years ago. Really, really liked it. I did not realize it was 300 and something pages, but I do want to read it again. Somebody in the group mentioned this when I had talked about the negative comments I get about knitting in public, and I know this is chock full of good information. I like history. I like knitting. I like true nonfiction, and so when I have a couple of minutes, and I mean like a couple too, I'll pick this up and read it. So I haven't even gotten past the introduction. I got it from the library a couple weeks ago, and I just started it. So I have that. I am behind on my audio podcast. Some of my favorite audio podcasts are The Knitting Pipeline with by Paula. The ones that I listen to right away are Knitting Pipeline, Just One More Row, hosted by Brittany and Dana, Yarniacs, hosted by Charlene and Gail, and the Knitmore Girls. Those are the 4 that as soon as they download, I listen to them right away. Then I have a few more audio podcasts on my iPad that I listen to, if I have more time. But I haven't listened to any lately because I've been spending my listening time with the books. So I think that was all I wanted to say about that. This is getting kind of long. The girls have not done any knitting the past couple weeks, so they won't be making an appearance this week, and they apologize for that. Journey did finish the scarf. It did not come out very long, so what I'm going to do is I'm getting her another ball because she wants to add to it. It comes to just right here, and I may take a picture of myself and put it before or after. You may have already seen it. I'll put a picture of me in the scarf at the beginning of the end. Let's see, is that all? I think that is all. We will talk about a quick ASL minute. Everyone seems to like the ASL minute, and I don't know if I showed you the sign for summer. If I did, you all said you like recaps, so we will recap the sign for summer. The sign for summer is you crook your hand. I think I told you this is an X. If you take your crooked finger and you wipe your brow like you're sweating, that's the sign for summer. Summer. So, summer. And I can, thinking of a sentence I could say, we could just say this summer or now summer. Now would be your two hands like this. So, and you would kind of put them down. Now or this summer. And you can just say hot, or this is a sign for hot. If you cup your hand on your mouth and kind of put it away, throw it away. Hot, hot. That would be hot. So this summer, hot. That's our ASL minute. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for all the ums. I'm sorry for the lighting. The sun has gone down. It's kind of rainy and overshadowed here. I feel like a little flighty because I don't have my notes written down. I just kind of threw everything together and sat down and wanted to record with you all. One more thing I did want to talk about. Under my needle. And so I have been I said I would talk later, on July 5th. I didn't do any knitting because I have been doing some sewing. And what I've been doing is making skirts. The girls and I prefer to wear dresses. They're just, well, we wear a lot of dresses. They're easier and fun to wear. Sometimes we wear skirts. The girls are growing out of their dresses. And so with the dresses being short, this is an example of one of the dresses. This is Justice's dress. And so it has a bodice, and it has a belt, and it's attached to the skirt. So what I did, because this is getting short for her, and it usually comes up maybe 2 inches above her waist. So what I have been doing is I have been taking the bodice off of the skirts, of the ones that she's grown out of, or that's too tight or too short. If the skirt is too short, I run elastic through it, and then she has a skirt, and we just have to buy a blouse to match it. I've done the same for me because I have lots of dresses that are very, very big on me. And instead of throwing away all that fabric, yards and yards of fabric, and having to get a new wardrobe, and I wanted to go ahead and show you one that I have done. Excuse my. So what I did is I just run elastic through. This was a dress, and I just took the top off and ran elastic through the waist, and that is my skirt. I didn't have to re-pleat it. I didn't have to hem it. It's very, very easy. And then I just, excuse me, I'm not dressed like I, dress for a Saturday. So that is some of what I was doing. Been doing that for the girls and for me. Or if I make a skirt from scratch, I would just make it easy. It's not even an A-line. It's more of a boxy skirt. This is one of the skirts I did for Journey. 2 pieces of fabric. Sew them up together. I serge everything that I sew. So I sew the side seams. This one I didn't serge. This is an example of ironing the seams open flat. This one is one I did last year when, I don't know how come I didn't serge this one. Turn up the hem, and for this one, I think I added a waistband. So you would take a strip of fabric, this is one for one I'm working on now. I guess I can show you. I wasn't planning on showing you this. But I would take, the skirt is sewn up, and then I would take a strip of fabric to add for a waistband and pin that to it, and you would sew that down, turn it over, zip some elastic in it, and you have a nice full skirt, and it's easy. So that's what I've been doing for these. If I cut the skirt out long enough, which is even easier, I may cut it out 2 inches longer than what I want it to be and just turn it over and sew it down, and make the casing like that. And so I've been doing a lot of these. I sat down on the day after, or actually it was the 4th of July. I sat down on the 4th of July and I did some, I did about nine skirts for me and the girls. And so it's fun. What I will do is I'll take a piece of this fabric off of the scraps, not off of the skirt, and I have them in my purse. And then when I'm out shopping, I have a scrap piece of each of the fabrics, and I match up the blouses that we're looking for to go with the skirt. So that's what's under my needle. It's kind of quick and not really a sewing tutorial, but that's what I do. And so I wanted to share that with you. I think I will let you go. I've run over an hour now, and I apologize for that. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I will see you, Lord willing, in a couple of weeks, around the 15th of July. I'm trying to think of something. I didn't even announce a July share, and I haven't had time to think about it. Maybe I will put up a quick video if I sit down and think about it. I know. And this is for our July share. I guess I can share with you, my friend, that I'm going to be turning 40 this year. My birthday is in August, and I will be turning 40. And I'm having a hard time with the idea of turning 40. So this is not knitting related, but if any of you want to share, and I'll open up a thread in the podcast group, or you can email me or private message me if you want to be in on the giveaway, and I will be giving away a $10 Etsy gift card. Do something different than the pattern giveaway, and just share with me if there was a birthday. Either share with me something about your favorite birthday memory. I would like for you to share that with me. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with turning 40. I don't know. It just seems like to me it's at the top of the hill. So anyway, I think it's not really knitting related, but if you want to share your favorite birthday memory in the July share thread on the Sittin' and Knittin' podcast group on Ravelry, you can be entered to win a prize for August, and I will draw that for the first show that I record in August. Thank you so much for watching and taking the time to be with us. Take care.
I think I should have a sit down and breathe, just breathe.
Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.